I need to ask you a question about this and this is very selfish because I struggle with it definitely as I was becoming a mom. And it's like the identity piece of it. It was so scary to me. I'm like, I'm that hard driven businesswoman and I've never identified with being a mother and am I losing my edge? And like I really struggled bad. And so like how do you allow yourself to see yourself differently and let your identity change? I mean, like I am much more well-rounded and a better human as a mother, but I really resisted that change and I don't even know why. How do you allow that shift to happen?
I think that's probably a better question for Hillary. You probably have a much better answer, but I would say this too, that love that you felt, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a child when you see him come into the world is unlike anything you've ever felt before.
Oh yeah.
It's a different love, right, than we've ever had access to.
Mm-hmm.
And by allowing that to come in and surrendering, truly surrendering, which is a really hard thing to do. The root of the word surrender, ser means above and render means give back to. So if you're religious, you could see that, give back to above, right? It truly surrendered. But to truly do that in love, manifest in the way that you approach your customers and your colleagues and the people that work for you and the people under your care who are depending on you to make really good decisions so that, the business continues to thrive and everybody has jobs and can feed their families and everything else too. I believe once you understand the table stakes in the mission, so I'll tie it together in two ways that I think, and then I'm going to turn this over to you because you're going to give a much better answer, but or a different answer.
Yeah, I like the perspective.
Yeah,
I love the
different.
perspective.
Is this in recovery? The mission was never to just become sober. The goal was never to just be sober. The goal was to be happy, joyous, and free. Sobriety is one of the ways that we get there, right? There are also others, but the first things first. We have to get sober and get honest before we even have a chance at becoming happy, joyous, and free. I look at life that same way. My mission in life is to be happy, joyous, and free and help other people do the same. If it means I need to surrender this identity that I've been holding on to, and I had it. Let me tell you how bad my life was and my story, right? I was that victim for a while, and I needed that identity to hold on to because it was the only way that I felt significant. And we as people and humans, parents or otherwise, need to feel significant really badly. So helping people realize and see that that's just a container over here that the mother, and there's a container as Britt the businesswoman, and then there's a container as Britt the wife, and all of those containers don't have to operate independently of each other, right? And as we start to get more and more aware that this one can help and inform this one, we start to allow them to come together in a way, if that makes some degree of sense. I like to think of it as an alchemical process, right? There's an alchemy going on. And I will say one last thing. I know I said that a second ago. As a boy, you only see your mother as a mom, right?
True.
You didn't see her as a woman with needs.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember, we get conditioned and grow up in a society where moms are superheroes. They wear capes. They can do 5 things at once. They're rarely acknowledged for it, right? And I believe that being a mother is probably, that's the superhero job in the world. First of all, you're the only one who can do it. You're the only one who can grow a life inside you. And thank you for that, by the way, and bring it into the world. And then take care of the rest of us, right? Because as men, we're just grown-up boys. Mm-hmm. I'm still 12. Mm-hmm. I'm just in a 58-year-old body, right? And need someone to look after me and take care of me, right? And that part of that identity is also who shows up into growing this business. Mm-hmm. So they're not so different,
right?
In my eyes,
right?
They're really not.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a freaking superhero. Some days it's for an almost 1-year-old, or every day it's for an almost 1-year-old, and also for a lot of other people who depend on you, but you're still that person. So that's the way I view it.
It really says it all.
Yeah. I mean, so the only
Kind of a zen moment there. I was
Yeah.
like,
Recording all of this, watch this back off, and
I
Kenny,
know.
Kenny and Tommy. I mean, you guys are going to be new humans when you leave, and your girlfriends are welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that bringing a child into the world also creates a new version of us as women. Because for me, I had to let go of all the ideas of what I thought it would be like, both personally and with the child, to really, because you can't, it's like you can't put it into words. And something that kept coming up when you guys were talking is that we get to choose our hard, whether it's in parenthood or whether it's in sobriety, right? Like we have two paths that we can choose. We can choose to like let go of the ideas of what we thought it was going to be like or who we thought we were in order to raise this beautiful human that we just created and serve them and give them the things that they need to thrive and become their best human. Or we can hang on and almost like, well, I'm not giving up this identity, or I'm not going to give up this drink, or I'm not going to give up that thing because this is who I am. And I'm so, right. And I also comes back to the mind too. Like that's our brain trying to tell us that we stay in this role or we stay in this space or this is who we are in the stories, right? And so when you were saying that, I was like, well, whose story is that, or whose voice is that that's
Right.
telling you?
Right.
And you're like, I don't know where it's coming from. And so that's where kind of I go. It's like, well, where did that start? Was that, you know, was that a little girl that, you know, for me, I'll use my, because I don't know you know, the little girl that felt like achievement meant love. That I was only lovable if I was achieving. Like, well, is that true? Like, as I'm an older, you know, like, how old am I? As you know, at my age now, I'm like, you're gonna say, is that true now? Right. And that's a lot of work. And that's a lot of, the small steps of saying like, it's okay to be who I am right now in this moment and still get love and still be seen. And,
no,
I don't know,
from what I remember your story too, you were a soccer player, yeah?
mm,
And you're a competitive athlete
Yeah.
and played at a high level.
hmm
And so probably a lot of what Hillary just said resonates, right? With
So much.
achievement,
Absolutely.
right? Your identity.
And losing that identity, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Having to move on or feel like you're moving on.
And you're responsible for all the good and the bad in your life too. Like you're responsible. Like if you know, want to be better at sports, then you have to train for it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And so in that comes that self-reliance too, right? And then it's harder to ask for help, or it's harder to say, okay, this isn't serving me anymore, or this doesn't feel good anymore. And it's okay to change. And but that's what I feel with a lot of women. We go through, especially after we have a child, we go through that transition of like a rebirth ourselves, of becoming somebody else in service of this child and in service of this new person that we are. And yeah, like we're told, like, okay, get your body back or go back to work right away or do these, you know, and it takes a long time for our bodies, for our minds, for our hormones, for everything to go back. And I think that process, especially for athletes, is really hard to surrender into and just like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And it doesn't mean, like, if we say it's okay and we release it, it doesn't mean that we're giving up or being lazy or, you know, falling back into old patterns or whatever that is. It's like, it's whatever's serving us in the moment right now is perfectly okay the way it is.
And I want to add on to that with just the whole, we touched on it earlier, the emotion, right? An emotion, they say lasts, what, 90 seconds? Yeah.
Yep.
The feeling is a physical sensation. Emotion, energy and motion is a physical sensation. The stories we can tell ourselves about that emotion can live for a lifetime.
It keeps us trapped in that emotion versus the release. Yeah.
It's gone. It's like a wave on the beach. It dissipates and it's over. Whether it's anger or sadness or joy or love or whatever it may be. But we create stories around those emotions. And I think that that's part of what we talked about with the conscious parenting. And then as being adults, it's just okay to acknowledge this feeling because that's what it is. Oh, I feel anxious or I feel fearful right now. And sit with it, let it pass with no stories, with no good or bad, with no right or wrong. Just be aware and breathe. You know, notice your breath, notice the trees, notice the sky, wherever you are, and then just move on. And when we start to become more and more aware and present around that, then it just starts to become easier, right? Life just gets.
Oh, and I wanted to add, bring it back to the love piece. I think that's what makes us so great as partners as well in that vulnerability piece, right? Because I can think, you know, because we all have a past life or past relationships or past experiences, and so Greg can do something, and I'm like, and make a story around it, right? Based on fill in the blank, and that's where we're really good. I'm like, hey, you did this, and I feel like that look was really condescending? Are you mad at me? I mean, I'm just trying to think of a lame example, and he's like, oh no, I was thinking about this call that I have to, and I'm like, oh, okay. But if I wasn't comfortable going to him and knowing that he wasn't going to take that and be like, how dare you? Do you know, like, he's not judgment or defensive. He's like, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize I did that. This is what it's about. And vice versa. He's like, oh, I tell myself this XYZ story. And then we joke and I'm like, well, what does that say about me? If you're telling yourself, if I like, that's not very kind. And we laugh about it, but it goes to that safe container of being able to say, hey, I just need to bring something to your attention. Or I just need to ask you a question. And, this is really bothering me, and know that he's not going to, Darvo, like flip it around and be like, oh, well, you do this or you're this. And it's like, then I don't want to come and talk to you. And so I think that, that goes back to that vulnerability and that
All
safety.
the growth is in the fear. All the growth is in the fear. I saw something the other day that said, if you're making a change or you're committed to growing or whatever, know this, the very next step is going to be fear. And that's your sign that you're on the right path. So, the heart of that question, it feels like to me, there was just this fear of what does it look like if I let go of this control, right? We were talking recently, I was at a group in New York of like the minimum net worth in this room was 100 million. I was a guest. And there were 50 some odd guys and some women in there. And it was a mastermind. And the guy leading it is a good friend of mine. And I was sitting in the room, and I'm not gonna, let's be honest. Let's go back to the honesty part. It's an intimidating room to be in. It's in New York City at Hudson Yard with a lot of really successful, powerful guys in the room, and girls and women too. And I leaned back and I was scratching my head, and my buddy Chris, who runs this mastermind, goes, "Yes, Greg." Like, thought I had a question. I wanted to say something. And I'm like, oh. And the topic was, something loosely related to control. And I said, well, it's just like receiving a compliment. I said, how many guys in the room right now, if I say, oh, hey, that's a nice suit, or that's whatever, makes you uncomfortable, or wow, have you lost weight, or, did you do something? And they're like, half the hand shot up. I said, but how many are uncomfortable if you give the compliment, or because when we receive a compliment, we don't have control over it. And that's why it becomes more uncomfortable. And I don't know if that resonates with you.
Oh, yeah.
But if somebody says, wow, Britt, you look really nice today, or I love that scarf, or whatever, you're like, oh, and we deflect, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly the word I was going to say. She would just deflect that. And then she would turn the questioning back on you.
100%.
Yeah.
And
he pointed that out yesterday or something.
It's
Absolutely
that receiving. And that's that, like that you said, what are the steps? That's one of the first steps. It's just receiving it. And
Just saying thank you.
Yeah, and just saying thank you. And being aware of that discomfort that you just experienced, that feeling, or letting it pass.
And that goes back to letting help. Like, that's some of the work I do with the women. I'm like, just let someone at the grocery store carry your bags out. Like, no, but I can do it myself. Why would I let someone help me? I'm like, it doesn't matter if you can or can't. It's receiving that help from somebody. So just they'll come. They're like, I didn't think that was going to be hard. And that was the hardest thing, just to let someone hold the door for me, or, carry the groceries. It's only 2 bags, and I'm fine. It's that. Yeah.
That was
letting
a
go of
struggle
control.
in the beginning of our relationship. Mick was like, he's like, I don't ever feel like you need me. You make me feel like you don't ever need me. And this was for a couple years. Like I had, and that was a me problem. Like
It was code for I needed to feel needed, though. That was really the problem.
Well, I wasn't able to let you help me.
Yep.
That's a lot of our identity is male,
Sure.
want to take care, right?
Yeah.
It's a bidirectional.
Millions
thing,
of
for
years
sure.
of demonstration.
Yeah. Oh, and as women, we just want to do it ourselves too. Like, because you're great about opening the doors and like carrying the bags in. I'm like, no, I got it. Because for so long, I am just I do it myself. I'm self-reliant. I figure it out. I, just do it. And I'm like, okay. And now I'm like, can you get me? And he's like, thank you for asking for what you need. And I was like, oh, it feels good.
Well,
Now I like
I'm
it.
so
Like,
proud of you.
yeah. Can you take the trash cans out?
Yeah.
Welcome to Ace Rodney Talks with the Superstars. Tonight, guest, the incredible